Everyone, welcome. And today we are talking to an expert about mental health and especially mental health with immigrants. Now, in today's session, we have an expert with us who's also an immigrant and has been through all these things that we as immigrants go through in terms of our mental health and how we find the whole immigration process. We're talking to Sunet Gopaul, and I'll let her introduce herself soon. But the reason why we're doing it is because we're seeing more and more professionals today being overwhelmed by the burden of immigration, and not just immigration, but also what comes after the actual move and how they're impacted by culture shock. It affects their careers, it affects their identity, it affects their success, and it affects their futures and their mental health. So today's topic in terms of this broader immigration and immigrants is culture shock and its impact on immigrants. Now, this is for those skilled professionals who are migrating to many countries in the world. It doesn't really matter whether you're going to Australia, to New Zealand, to Canada, to USA. If you're an immigrant, you're probably going to be experiencing some of these things. And this is why we're bringing it to the front, to be able to talk about this and maybe help some people in terms of what they're going through. Now, what to expect during the session? Like I say, we're speaking to Sunet, and we're going to really open up in terms of what she has experienced as an immigrant, how she can help those who are also experiencing this. She is a mental health professional, and from her point of view, it's not only personal experience, but it's the expert experience that's going to matter here. And we obviously will recognize those of you who want to go through and speak to her after this, and we'll give you some details of how to get in contact with her and her services. Now, I am Zarélsie. I'm an international career strategist and migration mentor. And in migration mentoring, my role is different to an expert like Sunet in terms of mental health. But if you want to get to know me, you are welcome to go to my LinkedIn profile and send me a message there, and we'll give you all of those details as well after this session. So, Sunet, welcome. Welcome on the call. I met Sunet a number of years ago when she was immigrating to Australia, and we've been in touch ever since. Then we've been going through things together in terms of our growth as immigrants, but also professionally and work and then starting our own businesses. So Sunet, please introduce yourself and welcome to today's call. Over to you.
Thank you, Zarélsie. Yeah, it's been a great journey. We've been living cross-culturally, working cross-culturally. I am also a trained therapist, so I'm a psychotherapist and I specialize in trauma therapy. So I have a lot of experience in mental health, but also I've lived cross-culturally and lived abroad in different ways. Like I grew up in South Africa, and eventually moved to Turkey by myself, single, just me, which was not the greatest idea. And I didn't know what culture shock was back then. I just moved and I thought, let me just figure out the logistics and I'm okay. And I burnt out totally. I was so depressed. I was really, really struggling. I had to learn the language. The culture was so different. And so I had no support. And eventually I had to move back to South Africa. And that was weird. That I didn't expect that. Reverse culture shock, where you get to your own country and you're feeling out of place and like things changed or you changed, So that was difficult. And then eventually I met my husband and got married, which is also a cross-cultural relationship. And then we moved to Australia. But this time I prepared. I got a lot of training in cross-cultural dynamics, in adapting, culture shock, helping immigrants adapt. I have a lot of experience in kind of preparing families for adapting abroad, but also debriefing them after a while, because it's hard. It's much harder than people think. People have this idea of, if I just have the all the logistics covered, I'm okay. And it's just not. So that's my focus at the moment.
Excellent. Thank you for that. It's interesting that you're talking about moving to Turkey and then back to South Africa as a reverse culture shock. No one ever think about that. But I'm guessing it's because we change when we move, and then we move back and we're not the same person as we were before. Um, but also when I moved from South Africa to New Zealand, you moved from South Africa to Australia, and one reason we moved to New Zealand was we thought it was very similar in culture. How wrong it was just, yeah, you think that, but deep down and the underlying layers that you have to adapt to was vastly, vastly different. Did you find the same thing? Was it same for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think South Africans in general think I know English, and it's a Western kind of culture like mine. Um, so I'm fine, but it's so much deeper than that. A different culture makes you go through an identity shift, and that's a very deep thing that happens. That's like literally who you are as a person changes.
Yeah.
And we don't expect that to be as deep, I think, as it really is. And most people are very surprised at how hard that is and how deep the changes are that you have to make, and that you don't want to make, but you have to if you're going to integrate. So yeah, the expectation is normally that it's going to be smoother than it really is.
Oh, yeah. I agree. It's a complete identity shift and it takes time. And it doesn't happen instantly. It does take time and it takes a toll. Um, so most people think that culture shock is just be like, I'm gonna miss home. This is a different culture, I'm gonna be host. But in your experience, what does it really look like for skilled migrant? Take us through the whole thing, like identify. We'll put a name and a label on it and color it in so we can actually identify, so people can actually know when they're experiencing it. What is it? What defines it and your expertise?
Yeah, the interesting thing is culture shock kind of starts before you even leave your own country. And people don't expect that. It's like the first stage, in my opinion, normally, if you Google it, it might be a bit different. But for me, the first stage is when you're back home and you've decided to immigrate and you start telling people and you're leaving your job and your visas and all of that. And people already start treating you differently. Your own people. Like suddenly you don't get invited to those, you don't get an email invite to that meeting about planning for next year because you're not going to be here. And, the family starts planning their family holiday together next year, but you're not invited to the group discussion because you're not going to be here. So people are already start excluding you from things. And that can feel a bit like rejection and a bit difficult to deal with already. And people start avoiding you because it's going to be so hard to say goodbye.
Mhm.
And so they already start kind of breaking those bonds with you, and making a distance.
Yeah.
And that can be hard already, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
then
know
you move
exactly
abroad
what
and
you're
you're like,
saying. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It reminds me exactly of things that happened to me, and it's now only that I'm thinking, oh wow, that was already starting culture shock. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't even know we're going through it. I mean, if you've never immigrated before, you wouldn't even know what there is such a thing as culture shock. But it's very well defined and it's very well researched, and there's a lot of stuff that we can do to help you through it. But so that's the first stage, in my opinion. The second stage is, of course, the honeymoon phase, where we feel like tourists. We've settled in, you're in your house, you're in your new job, the kids are in school, whatever. And now you're just like exploring and it's fun and you take a million pictures and everybody gets pictures. Everybody gets all the many, many pictures. And that's just really fun. And I do want to encourage you to kind of, while you're there, freaking enjoy it, because it's not going to last. It's just not going to last. So while you're there, go for gold with it, really enjoy it. But then the third stage comes, and the difficulty is the third stage is a crisis stage, where we're sick and tired of adapting. We kind of have adaptation fatigue because there's so much more adapting than we thought there was going to have to be, and much deeper adapting and shifting behaviors and values and ideas that we have. That's just not going to work in this culture. And if you want to adapt and make friends and see growth in your career and have new career opportunities and network and all of those things, those values will need to change and shift. And it's really hard to do that. We become depressed and feel burnt out, anxious. And this is the stage where people go, oh, did I make a mistake moving here? Should I have done this? And also the stage where they really start missing home. They really start going, I really just miss having my friends around me, knowing what is, knowing how to handle things, knowing how to build relationships, having my support structure and my family around me. And so they become very homesick. And this is the most difficult stage, and where a lot, the difficulty is that different people will go through these stages at different times. It's not set in stone, like 3 months you'll start going through the next phase or whatever. Not typically the honeymoon phase would be around 3 months. Full adapting takes about 18 months to 2 years. So it takes a lot of time, and if you're coming over with a family with 5 people in it, they're gonna hit the crisis stage at different stages at different times, and some of them are gonna stay in the crisis stage for longer before adapting than others, especially if there's like I'm working with a few families now. Like the dad started working, the kids are in school, but the mom hasn't started working yet. She's looking for a job. But because she doesn't have a job and the kids are in school and the husband is at work, she doesn't have any connections. There's no friends, there's no family around her, there's nothing, right? So she's becoming very depressed very early on in this whole situation. The husband is already like making friends at work and connecting, and the kids are at school connecting, but she's not meeting any new people. And so people will go through it in different times, and sometimes I have a client now, or a family, who moved from the UK to Australia, and with 2 teenage daughters, and the one daughter just isn't adapting. She's very introverted, finds it hard to make friends, all that kind of stuff. And her mental health became so bad that there was an attempt at her own life. And the parents just said, we can't. As much as this is our dream, we need to go back. And so they had to all pack up and give up their old dream and these great new careers and great quality of life, great opportunities, this dream they had to give it up. And there's so much we can do to prevent this kind of stuff and to manage it. But people don't know that we need to prepare for this stuff, where they just prepare for the logistics, but they don't prepare for culture shock and the mental health aspects of it. And they don't know that they're supposed to until they're in it, in the thick of it, and it's really hard. So the crisis time can take, that's normally the longest phase, unfortunately, because it takes time to adapt, and you're over a year without any support. All your whole support system is back home, and they don't understand what you're going through. They can't relate with it. They can't empathize. And we don't want to worry them, so we don't tell them how bad it really is, right? And there might be language issues, and so the crisis phase is long.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. I mean, it was already a massively brave step to come here, and people generally feel like, I'm a well-educated, intelligent, capable human being. I can do this. Until you're here and it's really hard and your self-confidence is gone because you feel like you don't fit in and you don't know how to make friends cross-culturally. And you're kind of an outsider, and your confidence is just suddenly down the drain.
Yeah.
It,
Exactly.
it can be quite a shock. It can be quite a shock.
Yeah.
So that's the crisis phase.
Why do people get stuck in these phases? Which one? I mean, the last thing that you talk about is the most dangerous one because that is where things really break apart. But where do they get sort of like better move? Do they just move through these phases, or where do they get stuck most? Is it the last part that you talk about?
Yeah, it's the crisis phase because at that point they're very depressed. Most of them, very very depressed, and this is the phase where most people give up and return to their country. And between 40 and 50% of these new immigrants will return at this phase. It can get that bad. It's that serious, right? Because they're at their lowest they've been in a very long time, and now they're in a situation where they don't have any social supports. And so people who have never ever had depression or confidence issues or anything like that before is now suddenly like really even traumatized, not just sometimes more than just depression and anxiety and all of that and confidence issues. And they've never felt this way, and they need help, but there is no help. There's no social support. Their family don't understand what they're going through. It's really difficult. And even if you go see a therapist, they might not ever have been through culture shock and not understand what you're going through.
Yeah.
So they can really get stuck, and oftentimes they don't know that this is just a normal phase of culture shock and it will pass. So they think this is how it's going to be now. This is horrible. This sucks. I hate this. I hate the people. I hate the country. I hate this culture. I hate adapting. I'm so over this. And they move back on.
Yeah.
And if they would just push through another couple of months, they would have probably adapted.
Yeah.
But they don't know that
Got
it's
help.
going to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Got help.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think getting help is easier, cheaper, and takes less time than moving back. You know, it probably is. Yeah. I remember for myself, I actually got physically sick. I had Crohn's disease and I was diagnosed at that time, and I think it was brought on by the stress of our immigration. And I worked with a therapist at the time who asked me, because I went through very deep depression, and she asked me, "What are you afraid of?" I'm like, because she thought I was fearful. I said I was fearful, I'm overwhelmed, confused. You know how immigrants feel. Those are the verbal words I could use. I didn't have any other words for it. But what are you afraid of? And I couldn't put it in words, but she had no idea about the culture shock that I was going through. And I got physically sick. I mean, I had no choice but, to stay. And fortunately, I did and adapted really well. But I think you're absolutely right. This is what people get stuck in, and I think this is it. It's the end. It's like I'm never going to get over this. Yeah, that's bad. It's a bad place to be, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we all, of course, think it won't happen to me. I'm strong, it won't happen to me. I'm confident. I'm well educated. I'm capable. I'm able. I'm willing. I'm all of those things. But
yeah,
what we don't know is how deep of a identity shift we're going to go through, and that is really hard. It's like nothing you've ever experienced before, so you don't know what to do with it, and your therapist doesn't know what to do with it because it's
exactly.
just so different than anything you've experienced in your own country.
Exactly. So you mentioned that it doesn't happen at a specific time. It's not like after a year you're going to experience this phase or this phase or this phase. But how do you see the timeline and migration? How do you see when do they sort of start? When do people mostly start exhibiting the culture shock symptoms, if you can call it symptoms? Or I mean, we're talking to high performing professionals here who don't just have to immigrate; they also have to perform in a new country, in a new culture at work, in a new job, which is like just adding on the layers of difficulty and pressure. But how they try to be brave. Do you see it being delayed and like coming on later when they think everything should be fine, then they start experiencing these symptoms, or sort of where in their journey do they hit the wall, basically? Do you have any idea? Have you experienced people hitting that wall at a certain time or period of the integration process?
Yeah, it's normally for most people, I think the honeymoon phase is around about 3 months. And then after that comes the crisis phase, right? And that can be very different. The length of that can be very different depending on what you're dealing with and how different the culture is and how much preparation and help you have in adapting. Because if you think about skilled professionals, they move to a new culture, and the way that people in this culture manage teams is different. The way that they communicate is different. The way that you show respect is different. The way that you build trust is different. The way that you network looks different. And so, for example, if you're from a country where management is seen as kind of like a dictatorship, there's the boss, we just listen to the boss, whatever he says goes, and we just do it without questioning it or giving our own opinions or our own thoughts about it. And now you move to a country where leadership structures are seen more as a democracy, where you first get people's input and expertise and consider all of that and then make a final decision.
Yeah.
If you're just going to walk in there and bark out orders without asking, you're going to mess up your career. This great new career that you have waiting for you, you're going to mess it up. So if you're prepared well for these changes, then you'll adapt. You'll go much faster through that crisis phase because you know what to expect and you know how to adapt to it and what to do differently, right? But it's gonna hit harder and take longer to go through it if you're not prepared for it, and suddenly now you get called in by your manager because you've been barking orders at people and not building a relationship with them first or whatever. And that's not how things work in your country, but here this is how it works, and you don't know how to do that now. So it can take months and months to get through that phase. I think minimum give yourself like 6 months in the crisis phase.
Yeah.
And what people also don't know, what people also don't know is that after the adapting phase, where they feel better now and they're not so depressed anymore and they've built some relationships and they know what to expect and what their role is and how to react to things and how to behave and all of that, there comes a second depression, a second crisis, where they kind of have to change their deepest values to adapt to this culture. And that's maybe not as long as the first initial adapting crisis, but there can be not for everyone, but there can be a second kind of really a bit of a crisis where you're, surface level, we've adapted to the basic changes now, but now it's more deeper, values driven, identity kind of stuff. And so that can happen as well. And that can take months and months as well. There is no on and off switch. It's a journey and it takes a lot of time. So,
And after the individual.
and I don't think people expect that. Yeah, people don't expect that it's going to take so long to work through it.
I find also in my program where I work with immigrants, I'm an international career strategist, and it's about jobs and finding your job as an immigrant and growing your career. It's not about that in the end. It's about these other under the surface things, learning the ropes of the culture, learning to network, learning to communicate, learning to integrate, learning how the other culture do every single thing at work that you have been used to in your own country is now different. All those things below the surface is completely different. Even how people communicate, what they expect of you, how they address everything is completely different. And that is what we end up doing. In the end is, talking about those things and working with those things. It's not about, how to get a promotion or a pay raise, but just adapting to those small things that make the other things happen. Because if they're not addressed, it ends up in stress, major stress, because I don't know why they're not understanding, why they're not progressing, but it's like a chain, it holds you back. Yeah, it holds you back. It is,
and
like you said, up to the individual.
competing. You're professionally competing against locals, right? So if you're not going to be able to integrate into the culture and adapt and do things the way that they do things, you're gonna miss out on so many career opportunities and growth opportunities in your career. For sure. Yeah.
Show up from your point of view, you work with many, many professionals in this space. How does it show up? Now, how does unresolved culture shock show up in their career? They seem successful from the outside, but when they end up with you, what do you see? What do you see how it impacts those people? What are the results of them suffering from that? Maybe people can identify this in themselves, that they're thinking like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm experiencing, this is how it shows up. How does it show up? Any particular way?
Yeah, especially career-wise, especially it looks a lot like imposter syndrome. Like you suddenly, even back home, you may have had the same career, and you're an expert in your field. You know exactly what you're doing, but things are done so differently in this new culture that you're suddenly very uncertain of yourself. And that's a temporary feeling that will pass as you learn. But it can people who are naturally very confident suddenly go through a time where they're very uncertain of themselves and kind of have this low self-esteem thing, and they don't know what to do with it. That's one of the first really big signs where they're just really feeling out of their depth, even though they are experts and capable human beings. And there's often depression coming with it, and often anxiety and panic attacks that goes with it. And a general feeling of wanting to isolate. That's very common, like just being overwhelmed by everything and kind of want to just, curl up on in a ball somewhere and cry.
Yeah.
And so at a time where, at a time where relationship building is crucial, they don't have the energy to do it. So the energy is also, they become the adaptation fatigue. They just get sick of adapting to everything and sick of trying and sick of working harder and sick of trying to figure out how to fit in and sick of trying to make friends. And it's just, they just get sick and tired of everything and feel like I just want to go. This is normally the first thing that comes up is like, oh, that feeling of, did I make the right decision to move here? And they want to give up. And there's a lot of, struggling career-wise, struggling to make friends at work with colleagues, or not making friends, but kind of knowing how to build relationships, professional relationships as well. And it's so crucial. There's no career where you almost, unless you're really in taxes or IT, that where you're not going to have to build good relationships. And the world is becoming more cross-cultural. I mean, in Australia, my husband is an engineer. He's on a team with, he's on a pretty big team, and there's not one Aussie on that team. It's all over. The UK, Sri Lanka, China, where so many different cultures in one room working together as a team. And if you're not gonna, if you don't know how to adapt to that, you're kind of setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
And your career is going to feel it. You're going to struggle to grow in your career, struggle to get better opportunities, struggle to network, struggle to, your boss is going to feel like you're underperforming if you're not, or either underperforming or not having good relationships with your colleagues. And you're going to just not progress as you would have maybe in your own country unless you learn how to adapt effectively into and integrate into a different culture.
That first warning sign, what are the warning signs? When should I take it seriously? When should I think, oh wow, I've got a problem here, or I need to do something here, or get some help, or reach out, or whatever? Where is the point where this becomes dangerous to their career progression or to their own mental health?
In my opinion, honestly, before you even move abroad, take it seriously and prepare.
Yeah.
But most people don't reach out for help until they're in crisis. So,
Yeah.
I would say if you're having a depression and anxiety and struggles, and you're just not yourself for more than a month, then I would reach out for professional help, because that mostly like something like depression, you would get diagnosed with major depressive disorder after a month of symptoms. We all go through a bit of a funk every now and then where we have a bit of a depressed week or something. That's normal,
Right.
But if you feel like you're not yourself for more than a month, then it's time to rather prevent than do damage control. It is going to get worse if you don't get help.
Dangerous for immigrants because they're in a space where they haven't built bonds or social networks or with anyone yet at that point. So they do not have that support which they would normally have back home. Is it more dangerous when that's what I found in my professional career and in my life too, is that people in that space become even more isolated and suffer more because there is not that support system, generally, professionally and personally for them. So it's even more dangerous for them. They get left behind. Is it your experience as well?
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest issues is like when I moved to Turkey by myself, the organization that hired me, they told me, don't worry, you're going to come here. We're going to train you in cross-cultural adaptation. We're going to be there for you because you don't know the language yet. We are going to help you find a house. We're going to, we're integrate you into our community. Don't worry about a thing. And then what happened was that they did in the beginning help me find a house and whatever. But as soon as I was settled in and I have my house and I'm enrolled in language school and all of that, that just disappeared kind of, right? and so you can't rely on people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know the language, so it was very difficult. And what happens now is you have no social support and you're going through one of the most difficult times in your life without any social support, totally by yourself. Or even if you go as a family, half of the family might be doing okay and the other half is really struggling. Or who knows, the whole family is struggling, at the same time. And so it becomes way more complicated than just taking care of the logistics. There's a lot going on, and the loneliness that an expat feels is much deeper than you could feel in your own country, because you feel like you don't fit in because your culture is different. The way you think is different. The way you speak is different. The way you behave is different. The way you react to things is different. Your values are different. The things that you support or don't support is different. And so making deeper friendships is very, very difficult. Even if you are quite an adaptable person. Like, I live in Adelaide in Australia, and a lot of people who live here grew up here and they've had their friends since childhood. And so it's really hard to become a new friend in that friendship circle that's just always been a friendship circle since they were little. It's really hard to break into a friendship circle in this place. So even if you
tell. Yeah. Exactly.
huh? Yeah, you don't expect it, but you just think like, I know English, you know English. We're amicable people. We get along great, And I get along really great with many people. That doesn't mean we're ever going to get close, deeper friendships, that deep bond kind of thing. And if you go on Reddit and you type in culture shock, you will be so surprised at how people are struggling with loneliness, and how people are, a lot of people saying like, I'm feeling suicidal. A lot of them, because it's not just about the kind of loneliness where I'm spending too much time by myself. It's more than that. Even if I connect with people, I feel like I'm not fitting in, and I'm not part of this group. I'm not part of this place and these people and this way of thinking. I'm an outsider. And that
I
takes
had
a
a,
lot of time to change.
yeah. I had a conversation this week with two people who actually voiced that, and they were saying it's like these people are inside a city with big walls around it, and there's a moat, and I'm on the outside walking around it, and I can't get in there. I don't know how to get in there. Completely, my whole being is outside. Nothing, not professionally, not personally. I can't penetrate them or, get into that community. There's no way for me into it. And the other person said to me, I feel like an alien. I feel invisible and like an alien. And that's just a verbal way of communicating what they're feeling. But that's a level up from loneliness. Loneliness is something that you feel, I'm alone, or I can go, there is something there that I can actually connect to, but alienated, it's a different level of loneliness, if you want to define it that way. Hey, it's almost like ostracized, completely invisible. The thing is that we are social beings as humans. We absolutely need those bonds and those communications and those social networks to survive. It's a survival need, absolutely needed. And that's the first thing that goes for immigrants, is that they just can't feel that they can penetrate that community or the social circle or the network or the support that they need. It is really, really difficult. But the big thing is, well, up to now, I think it's becoming easier, but people just don't talk about it because we're brave. We go places and we do things and we get things done and we got this. Um, but actually under the surface, this whole thing sits there and it just eats away, eats away, eats away. At least from your side, is there one thing, one practice, one mindset shift, one set of mindset that they can change, one thing they can do that will help, that will move them forward, that will not fix things completely, but that will move them out of that complete isolation and alienated feeling? Is there something that you can give them today just to take away to say, this will make it better? A prescription of some kind.
Yeah, I like that you already used the word mindset, because people often feel we kind of have a bias for our own culture, right? We kind of always feel like my culture is better than other cultures, or not better, but mine is the right way to do things, right? This is the correct way to live. My culture, this is how we do it, right? But mindset, just having the mindset of learning and being open, and not taking yourself too seriously. You're gonna make heaps of mistakes. Just laugh at yourself. Don't take it too seriously. It's so normal. Everyone knows you're a foreigner and you're gonna make mistakes. It's fine. It's not a problem. But if you're gonna have a mindset of everybody here needs to adapt to me, not me to them, you are not gonna adapt, and you're gonna end up burnt out and depressed, and giving up and broke and giving up your dream career and go back to your own country and feel like a big fat failure because you were not open to adapting to their way of doing things. It's a
That is
massive
wrong.
mindset shift. It's the only way. You're not gonna make it if you don't do that. Yeah.
Well, you talked about your husband and his work environment, where they're all different from different cultures. And I had a conversation with a friend the other day talking about that, who's also new here. And she said to me, but I can't be expected to learn everyone else's culture. And I'm like, that's not what we need. We need that you have to begin with your own understanding of your own adaptation. You don't have to accept and learn about everyone else, but you have to be open to your own adaptation and your own mindset change and identity shift. When you become aware of that and open that, the other things fall in place. It's not the other way around. I know that you and I both, I don't know about you, but I grew up in a culture in South Africa which was very, very conservative. And we were taught, we were sort of indoctrinated in terms of everything else or everyone else who don't look like us, speak like us, think like us, play like us, eat like us was evil. It's always evil. And when you come to another country and another culture with that mindset in between other people, remember those people may have similar kind of, it's putting it in a really, crude way, but they might have the same kind of thinking. Well, if, how would you ever, ever, ever integrate if you do not break that wall yourself and open it up to be able to adapt to that other people? It's just people. You need to social circle again. How are you going to get in if you come in with that close kind of mindset in terms of I'm not going to change what I think and what I feel about other people. They have to adapt to me. But you're in their country doing their things, you know, waiting and trying to achieve things. It will never ever work. Yeah, it will just never ever work. Um, Thank you for that. It was so insightful, even for me. I mean, I work with people every day in terms of their careers and their migration mentoring and helping them also in some sense adapt just from my own personal experience. But I've never like someone break open culture shock, especially the phases that you put it into. That is just so enlightening in terms of knowing starts before you even move. And only now I'm recognizing it because it did the same for me. It started way before we moved. I immediately felt like there's a shift, there's a there's a crack in how people treat us you. That was you're not part of us anymore. Like you're gonna go over there. And that was really the beginning of it. I don't think I think the older we are, the more difficult immigration is, but also the more difficult education is because we've had a longer exposure to a certain place, certain environment, certain thinking, and that identity shift must be more difficult, although I know individuals differ. But it's insightful. Thank you for that. Now, from here, viewers of this would potentially go, oh, wow, this is probably happening to me. And in some sense, this is good because if they can identify this is just culture shock, it's not me going cuckoos and nothing can be done about it. This is just something that can be helped and it can be worked on, it can become better. How can they get in touch with you? Tell us a little bit about your program and about the work you do and how they can get in touch with you to potentially help them with.
Yeah, so I'm at the time that we're recording this, I'm actually building my new business for this, and it's called Lost Bob Immigration Dynamics. And you can go to lostbobimmigration.com or send us an email at admin@lostbobimmigration.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. But what my program looks like is, there's just so many immigrants all over the world, and so it's hard for me to go, okay, let me coach you one-on-one. And there's not a lot of businesses out there who prepare people for culture shock and or help them when they hit it and they didn't see it coming. There's not a lot of resources out there, strangely, because immigration is so big and growing. I was surprised, but anyway. So how it works is I have a online school that you join. And there's lots of resources on there. There is some logistics and practical stuff about moving abroad just for fun, but but my main focus on it is to teach you about culture shock and cross-cultural competence. How do you now, apart from culture shock and the mental health aspect of it, there's also a training on how do I adapt and integrate into a new culture, regardless of what culture you're from and what culture you're moving into. So it teaches you how to do that, how to understand other cultures and where they're coming from and why they think this way. And so you don't have to become them, but understanding them really goes a long way. And being respectful of them goes a long way in building relationships. And also a very big part of it is a lot of resources for mental health where you can kind of for every person in your family, prepare a mental health plan based on their own mental health history, and things that they have gone through in the past, and prepare them and give them practical skills. So by the time that the crisis phase hits, you are prepared and you have practical skills and you know exactly what to do.
Wow.
And also debriefing. There's an online debriefing as well. So after about 6 months, you can debrief your family and kind of help them process emotionally all these big changes and difficult things. And there's Zoom calls, live Zoom calls, where you can just, there's a calendar with lots of Zoom calls, Q&As and mental health support groups. And everybody in that group is part of the school. So they are all immigrants. They're all going through culture shock. They're all going through the same thing. So you just click on that Zoom link and you're in and you're part of the group and you can answer your questions and share your problems. And I am also a trained therapist. So I handle those groups myself, and sometimes maybe get someone else in who has experience with being an immigrant themselves. And then also just kind of guide them a bit through that. So lots and lots of great resources on there specifically for people immigrating, going through culture shock, and helping them and their families adapt.
That's excellent. It is so reassuring to know that you have built this. It's not just a hub of information, it's a hub of experience coming from your experience as an immigrant, having gone to 2 different cultures in different places. That is the value. It is the value of someone with understanding, putting those things there, but also with a layer of support. That is so incredible. I am not aware of any of those things in existence. There's some superficial things that I know businesses do to help the people integrate when they come in to a new country, but it doesn't even go near the depth that I know you work with people and the understanding and helping them. I think awareness is the first step. Once you become aware of something, it's like you can't unsee it. If you know there's something there that is preventing you from adapting, from moving forward, from progressing, from performing, from being an asset and a successful citizen in your new country, then you can address it. But unless you're aware of it, you just don't know what you don't know, and you're just going to be flawed by it the whole time. And sometimes people are flawed by it, but they don't know that this is it. This is the thing that's keeping them back. I will put all the details of all the things that you have mentioned below this video for viewers. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's going to be below in the description. If you're watching this on Facebook or on LinkedIn, I'll put it in the comments below. If you want more information or you can't find something, you can either reach out to me or Sunet on LinkedIn. You're welcome to send me a DM. Sunet, are they welcome to send you a DM on LinkedIn if they want more information about your program as well?
Yeah, for sure. They can connect with me anytime.
Excellent. That's great. That's good. I'll put all the information there of how to get in touch with us or how to get into the program as well. Thank you for your time. It was incredibly insightful, even for me working with people in this space. It's just such a deep dive into just culture shock. There are many other things, and in the future, we are going to bring you more about these things that affect immigrants' health mentally, but also their performance. I'm a Kiwi, you're an Aussie now, and our governments are spending huge amounts of money and time, and our business is spending money and time and effort in getting people to help us, grow our country and make it achieve more. And if we can't look after those people who are the assets who are coming in, then why are we doing this? And I think this is where we need to be able to take these things that is the thing below the surface, the iceberg, isn't it? The information is there, we can find it anywhere, but the thing that's dragging the chains are these things are never talked about, never seen. It's unseen. It is sometimes taboo to talk about in some cultures. I found you're not supposed to talk about these things. But this is where we are going to have more sessions about this. If you have any questions for us, please put them below this video and we will address it in further sessions. And Sunet and I'm going to get together in more sessions like this and talk about these things and open up the conversation for others to come on board as well. And if there's someone who wants to come on board in these kind of conversations, please let us know. Thank you for watching. It was great to be here with you, Sunet. We will see you again in our next session. Last words from you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's really exciting for me. I think immigration is huge, and I really, I know you as well. We want our clients to succeed. So if you work with us, we want you to succeed, and you can, and you will. Just push through. Just don't give up, because that's just part of culture shock. You just keep going. Get the right kind of help. It's scarce. Get the right kind of help, and just don't think you have failed if you're feeling depressed. And it's normal. All of this stuff is normal. It's okay. It's not you, it's culture shock.
That's good to know. We can put a label on it and go blame that and not ourselves. And that takes the burden off us. Yeah, it can be fixed.
Yeah.
It can be fixed. That's awesome to know. Thank you for your time. We will talk again in another session.